I'm Amy Bolsters, the Floral Coach. I teach and train florists how to design artfully with confidence and efficiency. As a longtime Mayesh customer and Mayesh superfan, I am so thrilled to be selected as the Mayesh Design Star for November and December of 2021. As a classically trained florist, I am deeply passionate about foundational floral design techniques and mechanics. So today, I'm going to teach you how to build a better bouquet. So why the spiral? There are many ways to make a bouquet. Well, first I asked myself these two questions. What is efficient and what is effective? The spiral answers both of these questions. Now, the spiral is efficient because as you lay stems in your hand, you are following a placement pattern that allows you to work very quickly and very methodically. Now, typically, when a lot of designers think about creating a spiral bouquet, they think of a tight, round ball shape. But the reality is, you are able to get so many different shapes and forms using the spiral technique. For example, oval, open, loose and airy, cascading, and of course your traditional round bouquet. The spiral is also effective because it keeps the handle neat and tidy. No more tree trunk bouquet handles. The spiral also keeps bouquets lightweight, which is particularly important in wedding work when you have a bride or client carrying your bouquet. And lastly, the spiral works great for protecting stems from breakage. So let's get started. The tools that I use for bouquet making are a sharp, clean flower knife, sharp, clean flower shears, and just a handful of rubber bands. So let's talk about flowers. I have a gorgeous selection here from Mayesh, and what I like to do for my bouquets is really have a selection of a lot of different shapes and sizes. Now you can see I have some line flowers, I have some large mass blooms like these gorgeous Cafe Latte garden roses, as well as some smaller headed filler-like flowers. I'm also going to bring in some different textures like this beautiful Viburnum Berry, and it's also great for this time of year. Once you have your flower selection made, the most important step, I believe, to a great spiral is very clean stems. So I'm using a clean straight edge floral knife here on this gorgeous Cafe Latte garden rose, and I really want to make sure that all the foliage and all the thorns have been removed. So I'm going to place the stem on a table just for a little bit of anchoring here, and I'm just going to glide my knife up and down parallel to the stem. This is going to quickly and easily remove any sort of nodule as well as any thorn. In breaking down larger, branchier pieces for bouquets, you do sometimes have to sacrifice a lot of these little laterals. However, you can repurpose these even lower in the bouquet around the outside, but you can also use these in flower crowns or small centerpieces as well. Now, I'm really detailed about what I clean. So even for example, the spray rose, I'm going to come in here with my shears and pull out and cut out a little nodule there. So with the spiral technique, I want you to get started with two very straight stems, and I like to start with round flowers or mass flowers. I'm going to get started with this gorgeous Cafe Latte rose from Mayesh. It's so beautiful, and it can be on the more expensive side. This is kind of what I call the caviar of your flower palette. So I want this to really be in the center. I don't want it to be stuck on the side where nobody really sees it. I want it front and center. So because I'm right-handed, I'm going to hold with my first flower in my left hand. I'm going to be adding with my right and holding and building the whole bouquet in my left. Now, you can just simply do the opposite if you're left-handed. So I'm going to take the first flower and place it over the top, always over the top, head to the left, stem to the right, roughly at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to take my left thumb and place it here at the binding point. As I hold this bouquet together, again, I'm going to continue to be adding in the same placement pattern. So I'm going to be pinching this together, and I'm going to rotate the whole bouquet towards myself. So after I make this 180-degree rotation, I'm going to take my right hand and hold the top two flowers just in place while I swing my left hand back around. Now, I know, bear with me, this is just the beginning. So I'm going to take another flower, again, typically a round flower like a spray rose or a garden rose or just a standard rose. And I'm going to follow the same placement pattern. I'm going to place the head far over to the left, head to the left, stem to the right, over at a 45-degree angle, pinch at the binding point, rotate 180 degrees against my body, and I'm just simply using my right hand to kind of stabilize the flowers and hold them in place. I'm going to swing my left hand back around, I call this kind of neutral, and continue again. So I'm going to take another flower, and you can actually even start doubling up a little bit. So this will allow color groupings and make it a little faster and even easier for you. So I'm going to take two at a time, lay the heads to the left, stem to the right, at the binding point. Now I'm pinching with my left finger, again my left thumb, rotating awkwardly into my body. I know this feels crazy. I'm holding the top just in place as I swing my left hand around. So I'm going to continue to add, and as I start building this bouquet, you're going to start seeing it come together. As the bouquet starts to get a little bit heavier, I do personally recommend giving your stems just a little bit of a trim. This is going to keep the stems balanced in your hand physically as you're working. If you have a really long stem, it's going to be shifting around, moving things. You're going to physically feel like you're trying to keep it in place. By giving everything just a little inch trim, keeping it sort of evened at the bottom, just makes it much more manageable. So in order to hold this together, I don't want to add a lot of excess tape. I want to still be able to easily move my stems in and out and have that beautiful freedom of stem movement. So I'm going to use a rubber band because this is lightweight and it's flexible. I can easily cut it off if I don't need it, or I can just continue to add rubber bands over the bouquet. Take a hardy stem like a rose and slide the rubber band all the way up to where your finger, really your thumb, has been holding this together. This is what we call the binding point. So I'm going to glide this all the way up to the binding point, and I'm just going to come all the way around the bouquet, find that same stem, and snap it on there. Now this isn't holding it perfectly together, but it is allowing me a little bit of rest for my hand while also keeping the stems mostly where I place them. Now this would be sufficient to just start making some adjustments, add some beautiful greenery on the outside, and call it good. But what I like to do at this stage in the bouquet for myself is to really start bringing in some line flowers and some line foliages, like this beautiful Delphinium and this gorgeous dark Ninebark. So I'm going to start layering those in along the outside of the bouquet. This is going to really allow me to create more of an open form or airy style. As I put my line flowers in, I'm also going to start making some adjustments to the bouquet, really starting to feel out kind of where pockets of color are landing. If I want to pull something out of the bouquet, all I have to do is just simply twist and lift. This really enables something to quickly come out and easily without breaking it. Now, if I want to put it back in, I simply can just glide it back in, but the problem with sort of poking down through the bouquet, oftentimes if you're not comfortable with the spiral, is that the stem angle will start going the opposite of the spiral. That's when we create that little bit of counter pressure or counter pinching in the handle. So I find it best to just simply open your hand of where you want that stem, lay it into the spiral, neatly tuck it in, and then just close your hand right back up. Now you can see that as I'm starting to finish up this bouquet, I'm not having to do a full 180 rotation. As you start to really build out the different parts and sides of the bouquet, you can really focus on building up certain little pockets of color, layering and terracing, but also just really focusing and paying attention to one area at a time really allows you to finish that area, get it mostly done, and then continue to turn the bouquet and move on. Now, I know it's so tempting to want to start laying stems in the opposite direction, but I want to encourage you to really continue to maintain that stem placement. What happens when we start going opposite of the spiral is that not only do we potentially break our stems, but we also start to build a lot of unnecessary mass and density here. You can see I started to make, this is a fairly large bouquet, I'm still not even done, but I can still very easily just hold it in one hand. So by maintaining that stem placement, that really is allowing me to continue to manage this bouquet and quickly pull it together. Really towards the very, very end of the bouquet is where I'm going to start really focusing on the top, tweaking things, pulling things out, readjusting. But again, allowing yourself to get enough in your hands is really going to ensure that you have a great handle, nice and lightweight, but also this is where you can start manipulating the shape. So turning faces in, building all these little pockets of color, this is the really, really fun part of bouquet making. Now that I've finished the bouquet, you can see again that I've just tied one more rubber band nice and tight around this, and everything's really holding well in place. I don't need excessive mechanics to hold a bouquet together when using the spiral, because really the stems are being locked together through that technique. Now, you can of course finish the bouquet with any type of tape, but you can see that you can make a beautiful, light, airy bouquet using the spiral technique. Well, I hope this video has helped you learn how to build better bouquets. If you give this a try, I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. Big thanks to Mayesh for the beautiful blooms, and of course, for more floral education, head to thefloralcoach.com.